All right. So the next thing that we're going to discuss is real world orientation. And real world orientation will help you to describe your space and to just envision other areas or places that you would be able to describe and where you're at in relation to them. The way that we do this is we visualize maps. So if you were going to describe an area that is more focused or honed in, like the campus or maybe your home or possibly a place in your city, then you would use things like locative classifiers, which we've talked about, and you would use things like semantic classifiers, either a car or a person moving through that space. But if you wanted to describe a much larger space, a more general space or area, that's when you would use real world orientation. The two different ways to describe space I always compare to the TV show Friends. So in one of the episodes, the group of friends all go to Paris. No, I'm sorry, it's London. So all of them travel to London for Ross's wedding. And if you remember, Joey and Chandler end up going sightseeing. So Joey buys a map, and the map is not your typical map. It has like fake little paper buildings, 3D buildings on the map. And so, of course, Joey's like, when he uses the map, he puts the map on the ground and then he actually stands in the map and looks around it. Like that's how the map works. And he even says, I have to go into the map, right? So the way that he's describing and using that map, it would be like using locative classifiers or semantic classifiers in a very 3D way. So real world orientation is more Chandler's style because Chandler just wants a normal, regular, flat 2D map. Except for we wouldn't have that map laid out on the ground. We would put it in front of us to be able to visualize. So here's the map of the United States, right? And if I were describing the United States, I would put Florida where? Right in the bottom right-hand corner, right? California would be all the way over to the left. New York would be up north from Florida. Texas would be over to the left, but not as far. North Carolina would be up north, but not as far. And then once I've established that space, I can use different directions to show how I would fly, maybe from Florida to California. I would move across my space to the left. Or I could go from Florida to New York. I could drive up north. I could drive there. I could fly. All of those movements are examples of spatial verbs, and you're going to see information about spatial verbs in another video. So you could even make it smaller scale and think about just the state of Florida. So if we're thinking about that state of Florida in the shape of the panhandle, Orlando is pretty much central. And that means that down here is Miami, up here's Jacksonville, and over here is Tallahassee. So those are some examples of real world orientation.